So today we'll start a new chapter. Principles of pharmacotherapy. Principles of pharmacotherapy. What is pharmacotherapy? Pharmaco means related to drug and therapy is treatment. So when you give some drug to a patient, when you prescribe some drug to a patient, you have to keep some principles in your mind before prescribing. After passing from here, you will become a doctor. Then patient will come to you for some problem, some disease, and you have to prescribe drugs. So you have to keep in mind some principles before prescribing in drug. Okay. So what are the principles? First of all, dose. What is dose? What is dose? How will you define? What is dose? Amount of medicine, amount of drug. Yes, it is the certain amount of drug. Okay, it is the certain amount of drug to be given to a patient to get some desired response in a given patient. Okay, so it is a certain amount of drug. We cannot give abruptly. We have to decide which amount of drug to be given in a patient. It is the amount of drug which is given to get a response, to get some desired certain response in a given patient. So this dose varies from patient to patient. Usually a standard dose is there, but it may vary from patient to patient. So dose can be of 4 types. First is standard dose. Standard dose means a standard dose which is applicable to most of the patients, most of the young adults. Okay, it is the standard dose. Then regulated dose. Regulated dose. Regulated dose means when we give a drug to a patient for some disease which we can measure. For example, hypertension. Hypertension means increased blood pressure. Hypertension is increased blood pressure. So when we give a drug to a patient, we measure the blood pressure after 10 days, after 7 days, whether it is working or not, whether the amount of drug to be increased or decreased or another drug required. Okay, so we can regulate the amount of drug, we can regulate the dose. Okay, or like hypoglycemic drugs. Hypoglycemic drugs. These are given for diabetes mellitus. So we can measure the amount of sugar, amount of blood sugar in the amount of glucose in the plasma. So we can regulate the dose. If it is falling very fast, that means there is hypoglycemia. We can decrease the dose. So this is regulated dose. Third is target dose, where we cannot regulate the dose, means where we cannot measure the effect of the drug. Here we can measure the effect of the drug, whether blood pressure is decreasing or not, whether sugar is blood sugar is decreasing or not. Okay, but in certain diseases like antipsychotics, depression, antidepressive drugs, So what happens? A patient is constantly in depression. We give some drug, but we cannot measure whether the patient is better or not. Is there amount? We cannot measure it. Patient will tell, yes, I'm feeling better or not, but we cannot measure the effect. So what we do? We measure the amount of drug in the plasma. Okay. So for lithium antipsychotic, its toxicity is higher. Means if the amount of drug present in the plasma has certain limits. So if the amount of drug is more than the toxicity level, it will cause toxicity. So we measure the amount of drug in the plasma. A certain level of drug in the plasma will exert the action. So this is target dose. And fourth is titrated dose. What is titrated dose? Standard means standard dose. Regulated means where we can regulate the drug. Target dose means where we can measure the amount of drug in the plasma. Where we cannot measure the effect, we can measure the amount of drug in the plasma. We know that this amount of drug, if present in the plasma, will exert the action. So this is that. And what is titrated dose? Do you have the concept of therapeutic index, therapeutic window? In pharmacodynamics class, you have gone through this. What is therapeutic index? Therapeutic index or window? Tell me whatever you know. In certain drugs, okay, in certain drugs, here is effect. Here is dose. So here we increase the dose and here effect, we are measuring the effect. What happens? In certain drugs, the effect and toxic effect means the beneficial effect and the toxic effects, there is a small window. Means if we increase the dose, we'll get the effect here, and from here to this, and here it is toxic. If we up to this level of the amount of drug, we get the effect. So we need this much amount of drug to be given to get the desired effect. But with increasing dose, there will be toxic effects. So the window between the effect and the toxicity is narrow. What happens if we increase dose of such drug? The beneficial effects is less than the toxic effects. So we titrate the dose of the drug in such a way that we get the effect, we get the beneficiary effect with acceptable toxic effects. Up to a level of toxicity we can accept, but if it is more than that, we cannot accept. Okay. So anti-cancer drugs, these drugs have severe toxicity, but since cancer is worse than the toxicity, so we'll give such drugs to cancer patients, mostly anti-cancer drugs. Okay. Anti-cancer drugs, they have very high toxicity, but we give it in such a manner, in such a titrated dose, that we get the beneficiary effects with some amount of toxicity, acceptable toxicity, but not more than that. So titrated doses are for those drugs which have narrow therapeutic index. Now, before prescribing a drug to a patient, which things you have to keep in mind? First of all, the amount of drug to be given depends upon the body size. That means a heavier person will need more amount of drug, more dose than a thinner person. So, body size by weight or by body surface area. Okay. Weight in kg and body surface area in meter square. Area is there, so the unit is meter square. So, the amount of drug, the dose of a drug varies according to the body size, weight as well as body surface area. So, for weight, we have a formula, okay? Weight of the patient divided by 70 multiplied by standard adult dose. So, if a patient comes to you who is very lean and thin, you cannot give the same amount of drug to the patient which you give to a normal healthy person. So, to prescribe the drug, we go through this formula: weight of patient divided by 70 multiplied by standard adult dose. So, suppose a patient of 35 kg comes to you, okay, and standard adult dose is 100 milligram. So, what amount of drug will be given to this patient? We will derive by this formula: 35 weight in kg divided by 70 multiplied by 100. So, it is 1 by 2, 50. So, in this case, the amount of drug will be 50 mg. He will receive half of the normal standard dose. Okay. This is by body size, by weight, body weight. And then body surface area. Formula for body surface area is body surface area of the patient in meter square divided by 1.76 into standard adult dose. For body surface area, the formula for calculation of dose is body surface area of the patient in meter square divided by 1.76 into standard adult dose. And how to derive the body surface area of the patient? It has a very cumbersome formula. It is weight in kg, okay, to the power 0.425 multiplied by height in centimeter to the power 0.725 into 0.0078. Some more numbers are there, okay? So, is it easy to calculate? It's difficult. So, usually we do not calculate by body surface area. Only anti-cancer drugs are given by calculating body surface area. Only anti-cancer drugs, okay? And a few other diseases also. So, mainly it is given by weight, body weight. Some drugs have we'll find in further classes when we'll go to the systemic pharmacology. Drugs are given in milligram per kg. Means if the weight of the patient is 5 kg, so if it is 1 milligram per kg means 5 milligram. We have to give 5 milligram. Okay. If patient is 10 kg, then 10 milligram. So we will find in further class there will be dose according to weight. Next, the most important is age. How will you give drugs according to age? We have to keep in mind, for standard adult dose, it is for 20 to 50, 60, 50, 55 years of people. Okay. Or above 12 or 13 years old, up to the 50 years old, the standard adult dose is applied. But for children, it is different. For neonates means first 28 days. We cannot say that a child is a mini adult. We cannot give all the drugs by its body weight. Okay, because in children the enzymes are deficient. We have studied earlier also in metabolism. The liver enzymes are deficient. Their skin are more permeable. Their blood-brain barrier are more permeable. So those drugs which usually do not penetrate the blood-brain barrier and reach CNS, in children, in pediatric, less than 1 year or infants, it is able to go through the blood-brain barrier. So we have to keep in mind that first few months, 6-7 months to 1 year, 6-7 months to 1 year, the dose of the drug in pediatric patient is different from the adults. Even we cannot give all the drugs which usually give to the adults. Then from 1 year to 6 years, in these groups, in these pediatric groups, the metabolism is high. So if we give the drug by body weight, means the amount of drug per kg body weight, it is more than the adult, because their metabolism is high, their BMR, basal metabolic rate is high. So in children between 1 year to 6 years, in this pediatric group, their BMR is high. So standard adult dose is less than the dose given in the children. Okay. Then above 6 to 12 years, so there is a general formula, like between 5 to 7 years, we usually give 50% of the adult dose. 11 to 12 years, we give around 75% of the adult dose. Okay. And above 12 years, adult dose can be given. Okay. So this is how the pediatric patients, while treating pediatric patients, we have to keep in mind the amount of dose, how to give, how to prescribe them drugs. Then comes the elderly patients. Elderly patients. What you have to keep in mind, we already discussed in pharmacokinetics. For elderly patients, which things you have to keep in mind? You? Yes? You. First, second, third bench, middle. Stand up. So what are the things you have to keep in mind while prescribing elderly patients? We already discussed in pharmacokinetics. In all, if a patient of 90 years comes to you, will give you 75% of the drug. And why you will give 75% of the drug? What is the reason behind that? Their metabolism decreases, their body weight decreases, their renal and hepatic functions are decreased. So, sit down. For elderly patients, we have to keep in mind the liver functions, then kidney functions, then other diseases we have to keep in mind. They may have other diseases, multiple medications. So liver function decreases. Those drugs which are metabolized by liver should be decreased. Those drugs which are given orally, their bioavailability may increase in the elderly patient. Okay. So, oral drugs, dose should be decreased. Decreased dose. Why? Their bioavailability increases. Why? Because their liver function is decreased. So, less enzymes are available for metabolism of the drug. First pass metabolism is decreased. More drug is present in the plasma for action. So, their dose should be decreased. For kidney functions, more than 50 years of age, dose should be 75% of the standard adult dose. Okay. More than 75 years old, 50% of the normal adult dose. Okay. So, suppose a drug streptomycin, normal adult dose is 1 gram. Okay. So, in normal people, we give 1 gram streptomycin. So, for an elderly patient, 50 years, more than 50 years old, what will be its dose in this patient? Everything is normal except his age is more than 50 years. What amount of drug you will give? Normal standard dose is 1 gram. Normal standard dose of streptomycin is 1 gram. Okay. A patient came to you, he is more than 50 years old. What amount of drug you will give him? 0.75. In patients above 50 years, the kidney function is 75%. So, it is 1 gram, we will give 0.75 gram. Okay. And if the elderly patient is more than 75 years, dose will be 0.5 gram because here we give the 50%. Then other diseases like elderly patients may have cardiovascular disease, they have other means they have bone problems, joint problems, joint pain, some have psychological problems. So they may have taking multiple medications. They have angina and they may have joint pain, elderly people. So we cannot give all the medicines together. We have to keep in mind which medicine is suitable for him. For example, a patient comes to you who has angina. Angina means the blood flow to the heart. Heart pumps the blood, and like every organ, heart also needs blood circulation, blood supply. So what happens in angina? The blood circulation to the heart is reduced. So the patient has chest pain while working, while he is in action. His body needs more blood supply. His heart is not able to pump that amount of blood. Then he feels chest pain. So, while those patients who have angina, they receive certain medications. Okay, a drug is aspirin. Aspirin is a blood thinning drug. You will read in further classes. So this aspirin, and this elderly patient also has joint pains. Joint pains. So for joint pains, usually we give NSAID, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Okay. So these drugs has tendency to cause peptic ulcer. Okay. They abrase the mucosal layer of the stomach, and aspirin is absorbed more in the stomach, so it will cause bleeding from the GIT, bleeding from the stomach. So if we give these two drugs together in an elderly patient who has both angina and joint pains, so it will cause adverse effects, isn't it? It will cause bleeding from the GIT. So we have to keep in mind what other diseases or other drugs this patient is taking, other diseases this patient has, and we have to choose drugs accordingly. Now the third is sex. So usually females have shorter body stature, less body weight than males. So standard adult dose for females we have to reduce a bit. It is usually 0.85 of the normal adult dose for females. The normal standard dose is 0.85 of the normal adult dose, normal adult male dose. There are other things like gynecomastia. Gynecomastia is change in the male breasts, enlargement of the male breast. So it will happen only in males. Ketoconazole, it is a antifungal drug. If given for longer time in males, it may cause gynecomastia, but females it does not cause. Okay, gynecomastia will only be in the males. Then in females, there are special issues like pregnancy and lactation. We cannot give all the drugs during pregnancy and lactation. We already have studied it in the pharmacokinetics, because while pregnant, the drugs may reach the fetus through placenta, because placenta is not a good barrier. We already discussed. Then lactation. There are certain physiological changes as well. In pregnancy, body volume is increased, blood volume is increased, weight is increased, then there is decreased peristalsis, gut motion is decreased, so drug clearance is slow. So there are several things which we have to keep in mind while prescribing a pregnant woman. Then lactation, drugs may be secreted in the milk. So there are certain drugs which we do not prescribe in the lactational mothers. Fourth is race. It is seen that the Africans need more amount of drug than the Mongols as a general. If we give our drug 500 milligram in Mongols, they may need 600 milligram in the Africans, or 650 milligram. There is little dose variations. So according to race, it is Africans. There are certain drugs also need more amount of drug than Mongols. Okay, usually, and there are certain side effects which is exaggerated in certain race, not in all, like chloramphenicol. it has certain side effect. Aplastic anemia, we have discussed earlier in pharmacokinetics. Aplastic anemia, which is genetically determined. So chloramphenicol, an antibiotic, it causes aplastic anemia. Aplastic anemia is a type of anemia, deficiency of blood. All the components of the blood, RBC, WBC and platelets, all are decreased. Okay, there is suppression of the bone marrow. Bone marrow is not able to produce all three components of the blood. So this aplastic anemia caused by chloramphenicol is more in Western population than South Asian population. So same drug, same amount given in both areas. In Western people, it caused aplastic anemia more than the South Asian population. So there is variation in race also. Fifth is genetics. Though it is very difficult while prescribing a drug whom it will react and whom it will not, because we don't know the genetic map of every patient. Do you know? It's not possible. But there are certain drugs which we know, which causes certain specific effects, adverse effects in some people. For example, glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. Have you heard this enzyme in biochemistry? So what it does, what is its function? Glucose 6-phosphatidehydrogenase, anyone? This is an enzyme, it protects the RBC. It has anti-oxidative property. It keeps the glutathione in the blood. So what happens? In certain patients who have glucose 6-phosphatidehydrogenase deficiency, in them certain drugs causes hemolysis. Due to their deficiency, they cannot protect the RBC. RBC undergoes hemolysis, red blood cells. Which drugs? Antimalarials. The drugs which are given in malaria. Then sulfa drugs. Antimalarials like primaquine, chloroquine, then quinine, sulfa drugs, sulfasalazine, then sulfonylurea. So these drugs, there are more drugs also. These drugs causes hemolysis in certain patients. So suppose you don't know, you gave a patient antimalarial drug primaquine. After few days, patient comes to you and says you that, sir, I have dark colored urine. What will come to your mind? Dark colored urine, there is hemolysis in the patient. So after hemolysis, this blood pigment is excreted in the urine. That's why the urine turns dark. So you have to withdraw that drug. This is not suitable. So it is not possible to know the genetic map of everyone, but certain drugs we have to, which are already known to us, that these drugs are harmful to them due to their genetic map. We have to keep in mind that before next time we don't prescribe these things. Now, there are two terms, pharmacogenetics and pharmacogenomics. Pharmacogenetics is the study of genetic effects of a drug in a patient, in a given patient. What are the genetic effects? What are the effects of a drug due to his genetic map? It is the study. And pharmacogenomics. To the variations due to these genetic variation, we have to apply. This is the application of the pharmacogenetics. Which drugs we have to give, which we don't have to give, these two. Then comes the environmental factors. And timing of dose means which drug has to be taken at what time. It is important. Like we give diuretics. Diuretics are drugs given to cause micturition. It causes forced micturition or urination. So if we give diuretics at night, at evening, what will happen? Patient have to go to the urinal for whole night. Will it good for the patient? No. His sleep will be disturbed. So we give diuretics at what time? In the morning. Okay. Similarly, laxatives. What is the good time for laxatives? At the night, at the bedtime. He will take the laxative, the stool will be formed in the night and he will defecate in the morning. So there are certain times, some drugs have to prescribe at certain times, like thyroxine. Thyroxine is T4, thyroid hormone, isn't it? It is available as L-troxin and other names also. So this drug is taken in the morning in empty stomach. So there are certain timing of drugs, at what time this drug should be given. It should be kept in mind. While prescribing a drug to a patient, you have to tell him at what time this drug should be taken. Then routes of drug administration. We already described this one in pharmacology, routes of drug administration. So, certain drugs, same drug, produces different effects if given by different routes. Like magnesium sulfate. When given orally, it acts as a laxative or purgative. Not laxative, it is purgative. Purgative means forced defecation. Then, if it is given topically, means applied on the skin, it decreases swelling due to trauma. Okay. If someone has got bruising or pain, fallen down, and you give magnesium sulfate in topical form, it will reduce the swelling. Then, if given by parenteral route, like IV or IM, it has CNS effect. CNS effects means there is depressive effects. Hypotension, it will decrease the pressure. So, same drug given by different routes has different effects. Okay. There is a condition called eclampsia. Eclampsia, it occurs in pregnant ladies and there is increased blood pressure, edema, swelling of the body, then there is seizures. Patient has fits. So in that condition we give magnesium sulfate. So what will be the best route for this patient to give magnesium sulfate? A patient comes to you, a patient of eclampsia. The patient of eclampsia has raised blood pressure, has seizures and edema. Okay, there is proteinuria. So you have to give magnesium sulfate. What will be the best route? I told you the 3 routes. Just now I described magnesium sulfate given by different routes will have different effects. Say patient of eclampsia comes to you, okay, she has raised BP, seizures means fits, you know fits, and proteinuria edema. By which route you will give the magnesium sulfate? 3 routes I give you options: orally, topically, and IM, intramuscular. By which route you will give? IM. Why? Your answer is right. Why? She has CNS effects. She has raised BP. She has seizures. We have to decrease the sit down. We have to decrease the blood pressure. Magnesium sulfate given by IM route will decrease the pressure, cause hypotension. Then it has CNS depressant action. It will reduce the exaggeration of the CNS effects. So it will be effective as IM route. 8. Pathological states. We already described pathological states means diseased conditions. In certain diseases, we have to reduce the dose of the drug. We told about the elderly patients. Similarly, in young adults also, if a patient come to you with liver disease or kidney disease, so you have to reduce the drug. So a patient of chronic kidney disease comes to you, which drug? You have to give a loading drug and then maintenance, loading dose and maintenance dose. Which dose you have to decrease in a renal patient? In a patient with decreased GFR. GFR is? So a patient came to you who has some kidney disease because of which he has reduced GFR. So which dose you have to decrease? We already discussed in few classes. Loading dose or maintenance dose. Which dose you have to decrease? So a patient comes to you with renal disease, his GFR is reduced. You have to give a drug. First by loading dose and then you have to give maintenance dose. So which dose you have to reduce? Both or loading or maintenance, and why? The maintenance dose. You have to decrease the maintenance dose because in kidney diseases, kidney is excretory organ. You know it is excretory organ and excretion is related to clearance. We already discussed the 3 pharmacokinetic parameters: bioavailability, then volume of distribution, and then clearance. So kidney function is related to clearance. So loading dose is related to volume of distribution. If a dose has a very large volume of distribution, we have to give the high loading dose. But if it presents with a kidney disease, a patient comes to you with kidney disease, his maintenance dose should be reduced because his clearance is slow, his GFR is low. He is not excreting the drugs as it should be done in a general public, in a general people, in a healthy people. So we have to decrease the maintenance dose. So liver disease, kidney disease, you know. Now cardiovascular disease. So cardiovascular disease, suppose heart failure. What happens in heart failure? Sit down. There is failure of the heart. Heart cannot pump enough. Okay, heart cannot pump enough blood. So what happens? blood accumulates in the dependent part. Dependent part means in the lower parts. If a patient is standing, blood will, the body fluid will accumulate in the legs. If patient is recumbent, is lying down, the fluid will accumulate in the back side. Okay. So there is extracellular volume, ECM volume is increased. In a patient of heart failure, enough blood is not pumped in the vessels. So what happens? The extracellular fluid volume is increased. So what dose is to be reduced? Similar question, loading dose or maintenance dose? Extracellular fluid volume is increased. Okay. Loading dose, because here distribution to the tissues is reduced. So we'll give the loading dose in decreased amount. Then thyroid diseases, thyroid disorders. Certain drugs has like digoxin. This drug is given for heart failure. Okay. So those patients which has hypothyroidism, they are more sensitive to digoxin. So a patient comes to you who has hypothyroidism, you have to give him digoxin, you have to lower the dose. You have to lower the dose because these patients are more sensitive to digoxin. Similarly, a case of hyperthyroidism, they are less sensitive to digoxin, but means their digoxin's effects, beneficial effects as well as adverse effect. Both type of effects are there. So in hyperthyroidism, their beneficial effects is reduced, means their ionotropic action, the action of pumping the blood. In heart failure, the heart fails to pump the blood. So you give digoxin, it has ionotropic action. Ionotropic means it has the effect of effect on the heart to pump more blood. So this beneficial effect, ionotropic effect is decreased. It is decreased. And adverse effect, arrhythmogenic. Arrhythmia means rhythm of heart rate is disturbed. Okay. So their arrhythmogenic effect is increased. In hyperthyroidism, the effect of digoxin, the beneficial effect of digoxin, the ionotropic effect is decreased, but their arrhythmogenic effect is increased. So there will be more side effects than beneficial effects. So you have to keep in mind these things. Other pathological diseases is there or not. Then comes the drug interactions. Drug interactions is there. Then ninth, drug interactions. So multiple drugs are there, we already described. Then cumulative effect. Cumulative effect means, cumulative means additive. Additive effect. Suppose a drug is given in a maintenance dose whose rate of elimination is low. We have already discussed in pharmacokinetics, rate of maintenance dose should be equal to the rate of elimination. We already described it, already studied it. So if I am giving a drug to a patient who has low rate of elimination and has more maintenance dose, what will happen? The drug will accumulate in the body. So it will have toxic effects. This is called cumulative effect. Means more drug is added to the body. Then two important things. One is psychological effects. certain drugs have both psychological as well as physiological effects. Means if a drug is given, pharmacodynamic effects are there, but sometimes we know that this patient does not need any drug, that does not need any treatment, but he comes to you, sir, I have this pain, I have this thing. So what you have to do some drug. There are patients, we'll read in psychiatry. Okay. So they have hypochondriac type of delusion. Patients visit different doctors. I have this pain, I have this thing, I have this thing. They don't have any disease or minor things, but they are very anxious about their disease. So you have to give a drug called placebo. Actually, it is not a drug. Placebo is not a drug. Usually lactose or glucose tablet, or in some patients injectable form distilled water. So what happens? You gave a placebo to these patients and patient thinks I am taking the drug and I am fine. They have psychological effects. It is not a drug, but patient thinks I am taking the drug and now I am fine. Okay. So usually lactose or glucose tablet or distilled water, these are given to the patient and patient thinks yes, I am fine. And there is another term, nocebo. It is newer term. Placebo has optimistic effect. Means patient finds benefit. Patient thinks yes, I am taking a drug and I am fine. Okay. The tablet has no effect, but patient thinks yes, I am fine. Okay. Sometimes it has effects of this is called psychodynamic effect. And nocebo, it has pessimistic. Pessimistic means negative effect. If you want to give patient a drug which is not required, or you want that patient should leave it, patient should stop this drug, you give the nocebo. Okay, so patient will not take the drug. Yes, it has some wrong effect in me. That is nocebo. And then tolerance. We have discussed already tolerance. Tolerance is the effect of drug, okay, is reduced with time. Means you have to increase the dose of the drug. With time, the amount of drug, the dose of the drug which is required to produce the desired action is reduced. So we have to increase the amount of the drug to get the same response, to get the same effect. That is tolerance. Certain drugs like morphine, cocaine, usually these have some anti-epileptics, carbama, Zepin, means those drugs which has CNS effects mostly. Then phenytoin. These drugs shows tolerance. With time, we have to increase the barbiturates, increase the amount of the drug to the same patient due to tolerance. Patient will not miss their body physiology is changed according to the amount of drug. So they need more drug for the same desired action. And there is another term, tachyphylaxis. Tachyphylaxis is if a drug is given repeatedly. What happens? If a drug is given repeatedly, the effect of the drug is reduced. Means, suppose you gave 10 milligram, effect came. You gave 20 milligram, effect increased. You gave 30 milligram, increased. Then you gave 40 milligram, not increased. It is the same. 50 milligram, not increased. Why? So this effect occurs in those drugs which indirectly acts. Indirectly acts means, for example, a drug is called ephedrine. This is an adrenergic drug. It acts by liberating catecholamines in the blood. So if we increase the ephedrine, more catecholamines are liberated in the blood. But the synthesis of catecholamine is different process. It is not increasing the synthesis. It is only increasing its liberation in the blood, its release in the blood. So after the maximum amount of catecholamines which is present in the body is liberated, then the effect of ephedrine will not increase, because for further increase in catecholamine we need synthesis of the catecholamine in the body. So this effect is called tachyphylaxis. All these things are given in detail in your book. To go through them. This chapter is very important because when we go for practice, when you will prescribe drugs, you have to keep these things in mind, isn't it? So an elderly patient has come, which drug I have to give, which drug I have to reduce, which drug I have not to give. Similarly, a patient with cardiovascular disease, heart failure, hypothyroidism, a pediatric patient. So you have to keep these things in mind. Which drug, how, routes of administration, how it should be given.